cost of leaving the European Union is. We were always told it was going to be big because we had existent financial commitments within the EU. But according to Treasury Minister Tulip Siddiq, Britain has paid the EU £23.8 billion thus far, with another £6.4 billion coming to settle our pre-existing financial obligations. So near as damn it £30 billion, which makes the £22 billion black hole that Keir Starmer's flapping about a little smaller, I suppose. I'm fascinated to hear what Denis MacShane is going to say about this, the former Labour MP and Europe Minister under Tony Blair, author of Brexiternity, The Uncertain Fate of Europe. He joins me now. Morning, Denis.
Good morning, man. Hi.
So I have to say, I read the story. None of it really came as new news to me, but it is still startling to see in black and white the costs involved.
Indeed. I mean, in a funny way, I sometimes think that because the figures are so big, it almost is impossible to put it on the front page. I'm an old journalist, and you need a sort of sexy, easy-to-fill story. Last week, according to Reuters, the Lord Mayor of London was saying that London just has lost 16 to 40,000 jobs. And the City of London, really good, well-paying jobs, because our firms working in the city, they can't trade as they could when they were part of Europe. So firms, the City of London Stock Exchange now is losing lots of what are called listings, but overseas firms say, right, we want to raise money, we'll list it in London. Now they go to Paris or Frankfurt or wherever, because again, we're just not part of that big market. But how you make it a real story is fascinating.
Can I ask where this leaves Keir Starmer? Because we've been reading that there's sort of been sort of soft diplomacy going on in the background, lots of visits to European heads of state and such like. But can he afford to ignore the negative impacts of Brexit? Can he? I mean, do we not need to look at things like return to the customs union, if only to get our finances back on track?
Well, many of us who care for the future of the country and want to see a Labour government work ask ourselves, how do we get the growth agenda that Rachel Reeves quite rightly is putting forward after the 15 years of lost growth, 14 years under the Tories and Liberal Dems, and then you say, and you're going to do it still cutting all links to the world's single biggest market. It'd be like Canada saying we're going to get rich, but without trading with America.
Yes.
It's just, it doesn't make sense. Now, there's another point worth making. At the general election in July, British people overwhelmingly said no to the Brexit Tory years, Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, all of them, and put in, 501, I've counted them, MPs, Labour, Lib Dem, Greens, Scottish Nats, who are opposed to Brexit. So that's a huge mandate. No government's had a mandate like that, an issue like that, for 100 years. And yet no minister and very few Labour MPs are actually saying, hey, Brexit isn't working very well.
Why, Denis? Why? Why are they not saying it?
They're scared. They're scared because we saw in the run-up to Brexit the emotions it generated about immigration, about control and all those issues. People don't want to open that particular can of worms again, which I understand. I fully understand. I'm pro-European. I'm not for a second saying rejoin tomorrow. I've got the T-shirt, but it's at the bottom of my drawer. But nobody in Europe, I patrol Europe all the time, nobody in Europe wants us back, particularly at the moment, completely. But they do ask, well, why can't you share in university funding? Why can't you let your young artists travel freely to Europe? Why can't you let some of your people who want to retire, if they want to retire, buy a nice warm place in Spain or Portugal or wherever? Spain, I mean, two big countries, very close to Britain, old traditional democracies like Switzerland and Norway. They're not in the EU. They're not taking orders, but they do have a much better relationship with Europe. So I hope over time, and it's very interesting in the Tory leadership race. I mean, Robert Jenrick is going potty about leaving the European Convention on Human Rights, which Winston Churchill set up. Kemi Badenoch is not exactly a left-winger, not my cup of tea. She's saying, oh, that's daft. And it is daft. So perhaps we'll see. We'll have to wait till after the leadership choice is made. Maybe the Tories are always a party of Europe, not Labour. That was quite.
They used to be, Dennis, and I think in part that the division over Europe has obviously paved the way for things like reform and the fact that they just had their worst electoral performance in 100 years.